It is 2 o'clock in the morning, somewhere out in the national forest, and you are wide awake. You are zipped into a 40-degree sleeping bag that cost more than your first car payment, lying on a foam pad inside a tent with a rain fly, and you're cold, not freezing, just cold enough that sleep will not come. Your hips ache from the hard ground. The campfire you fought an hour to light is stone dead, and out in the back of your truck sits $400 worth of gear from the sporting goods store that was supposed to prevent this exact night. Now think about something. On this same ground, in weather colder than this, our people slept warm every single night for 10,000 years. No nylon, no foam pad, no propane, and no zippers. So how did they do it? That is what I'm going to teach you today. 25 camping skills the old ones lived by, and the modern world forgot. And stay with me all the way to number 25, because that one is about the ground itself. What our people did to the dirt underneath their beds before they ever laid down is the reason they slept warm at 20 below. Hardly anybody alive can tell you the why behind it anymore. I can. I'm Wes Kingfisher. I'm 64 years old. I'm of Cherokee heritage, and I was raised by my grandmother Ada in the hills of eastern Oklahoma, where I still live today. On the same few acres with the same creek and the same oak and hickory woods. She taught me the plants and the kitchen. My grandfather and my uncles taught me the woods. And 40 years on the powwow trail taught me the rest, from the northern plains to the desert southwest. The old ones never wrote any of this down. So listen close. Now I want you to picture your own garage for a minute. The tent in its bag, the camp stove, the lantern, the water filter, the folding chairs, the big cooler. Americans spend billions of dollars a year on camping gear, and I would bet good money that half of it gets used twice before it goes up on a shelf for good. I am not against decent gear, but 60-some years in these woods taught me something the sporting goods store never will. Gear runs out on you. Batteries die, fuel canisters empty, zippers break, and air pads spring leaks, usually on the coldest night of the trip. Knowledge weighs nothing, never breaks, and it gets stronger every time you use it. Our people carried everything I'm about to show you inside their heads, and it kept them alive and comfortable through winters that would put a modern camper in the hospital. Today, we are going to cover the whole picture: where to put a camp and where never to. Fire you can start in a rainstorm and keep alive until morning. Water you can find in dry country and make safe with no filter. Shelter, wild food, and the two plants I would want with me anywhere on this continent. And then that ground trick at number 25, the one I promised you, the one you will use for the rest of your life once you understand why it works. Now, before we walk into these woods, I want to tell you where all 25 of these live, because every one of them is written down in a book I put together called The Native American Way. It holds 101 remedies, skills, and recipes from the old ways, the knowledge my grandmother Ada and the elders across Indian country handed me around 1,000 fires, written down plain, step by step, before it is gone. The backyard plants and how the old ones use them, Ada's teas and salves, the wild foods, the fire and shelter and water skills, and the recipes that fed the people through every winter. All of it in one book, in plain English, for $17, marked down from $47. $17 one time for knowledge that took 10,000 years of testing. You cannot buy that at the sporting goods store at any price. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There's no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, boots on. Skill number 1 is the first decision you make in the woods, and it decides how every other skill goes for you. Number 1, put your camp on the bench. Cold air behaves just like water. When the sun goes down, it flows downhill, slides along the draws, and pools up in the valley bottoms the same way rain pools in a low spot. camp down in that pretty creek bottom meadow and you are sleeping in a lake of cold, the bottom of a valley can run 10 degrees colder than the slope above it on a still night. 10 degrees, and sometimes more than that. Camp up on the ridge top instead, and the wind will work on you all night and steal your fire's heat besides. So the old camps sat on what hunters call a bench, a flat shelf partway up the slope, above the cold pool, below the wind. Walk out early some fall morning, and the land will show you the proof. Frost lying thick and white in the low meadow, and the bench above it green and dry. One more thing before you drop your pack. Look straight up. A dead limb hanging in the branches over a campsite is called a widowmaker, and the name is honest. Move until the sky above you is clean. That handles the cold and the wind. But water brings a problem of its own. Number 2, camp back from the water. A creek in the evening looks like the perfect front yard, and almost every camper walks right up and pitches on the bank. The old ones set their camps about 100 long steps back from the water. 100 steps. Remember that number because it comes up again later. The reasons stack up fast. Damp, cold air settles along the water at night, so the bank is the clammiest bedroom in the whole woods. Mosquitoes raise their young in the still edges, and they eat supper right where they grew up. A hard rain upstream can put a quiet creek over its banks by midnight while you sleep beside it. And there is one more reason the old people took seriously. At night, the water's edge is the highway of the woods. Deer, raccoon, fox, and bear all come down to drink in the dark, and they have been using those trails a lot longer than we have. Camping on the bank is pitching your tent in the middle of the road. Set back 100 steps, you sleep drier, warmer, and quieter, and the animals keep their road. Now, once the camp is placed, everything else in the old way starts with fire. And the first fire lesson is the one modern campers get backwards. Number 3, build the fire small. My grandfather had a saying about the fellow who builds a bonfire and then sits 10 feet back from it with his coat on. He said that man is heating the sky. The old fires were small, knee-high, sometimes smaller, fed with wood no thicker than your wrist, and the people sat close, knees almost over the coals. The why is plain physics. The warmth coming off a fire falls away fast with every step you back up. Move twice as far from the flames and you are catching only a fraction of the heat. So, a big fire you sit far from wastes most of what it makes, eats a whole night's wood in 2 hours, and throws sparks the size of moths. A small fire you sit close to warms your hands, your face, and your supper all at once, and a single armload feeds it all evening. Think about it from the old days. Every stick was cut without a chainsaw and carried without a truck. Nobody who works for their wood burns it for show. Keep it small, keep it close, and mind your local fire rules, same as I do. Now, a small fire has one weakness. Half its heat still walks off into the dark behind it. The old ones fix that too. Number 4, stack a reflector wall. Behind your fire, about an arm's length back, stack a low wall. Green logs work best, laid up between 4 stakes, about knee-high. Flat, dry stones do the same job. That wall catches the heat that was leaving the party and bounces it right back across the fire at you. Set your shelter, opening on the other side, facing the wall, and now the heat comes at you twice, once from the flames and once off the wall, the same way a fireplace throws warmth off its back bricks. The wall earns its keep a second way too. It blocks the night breeze so the fire burns steady, instead of leaning and gusting and burning your wood twice as fast. Our people use the same thinking on a bigger scale: a hide windbreak, a brush wall, a bank of dirt, always putting something at the fire's back. 10 minutes of stacking buys you hours of doubled warmth. It is the closest thing to free heat in the woods. But before you go stacking stones around any fire, there's one thing to check first, and it can save you a trip to the doctor. Number 5, never take stones from the creek. A stone that has been lying in water or in wet ground has water soaked deep inside it. Set that stone next to a hot fire and the water inside turns to steam. Steam wants 1,000 times the room, and stone does not stretch. So the rock bursts, and I mean bursts, loud as a rifle shot, throwing hot, sharp pieces every direction, sometimes a full hour after you built the fire, right when everybody has gathered close. The old ones knew this the way you know a stove is hot. Firestones came from high, dry ground, the top of a ridge, a dry ledge, the sunny side of a hill. Never from the creek bed, never from a swampy bottom, never after a week of rain. And if a stone near your fire ever starts hissing at you, that is the steam talking. Get everybody back and let it finish its argument alone. Dry stones only. Hold on to that rule, because dry stones are about to become one of the most useful tools in this whole video. First, though, we have to solve the problem that beats most campers before the first flame: rain. Number 6, find dry tinder in a wet woods. It can rain for 3 days straight, and the forest is still full of dry wood if you know the rule the old ones taught their children: dead and standing, never dead and lying. Wood on the ground drinks water up out of the soil like a wick and holds it. Wood that died standing still leaning or hung up off the ground sheds the rain and stays dry at the heart. Snap a pencil-thick twig off a standing dead branch. If it cracks clean and loud, it is good. If it bends quiet, walk on. Whittle a wet-looking stick 3 or 4 passes with your knife, and you will find dry wood shining underneath, because rain soaks in slower than folks think. Now for the treasures. Find an old rotted pine stump and dig at the base, and you will hit hard, orange, heavy wood that smells sharp like turpentine. The old ones prized it, and old-timers here call it fat wood. It is soaked through with pine resin, and resin burns hot, even wet. Cedar bark is the other gift. Peel a strip, rub it, and roll it between your palms until it fluffs up like a bird's nest, and you are holding tinder that catches a spark. And this last part matters most. Once you have good tinder, it rides in a pouch inside your coat, on your body, warm and dry. The old ones carried tomorrow's fire today. That is the material. But material alone never lit a fire. What comes next is the discipline, and it is where nearly everybody fails. Number 7, build the whole fire before you strike. When a fire dies in the first minute, people blame wet wood. 9 times out of 10, the wood was fine and the builder got impatient. A man gets one flame going, then wanders off looking for the next stick, and while his back is turned, his fire starves to death. The old way runs opposite. Gather everything first, strike last. So do it like this. Lay out 3 piles before you ever reach for a match. First pile, tinder and twigs, from pencil lead up to pencil thick. Second pile, sticks as thick as your finger. Third pile, wood as thick as your wrist. Now look at those piles and gather 3 times that much. 3 times. What looks like plenty in daylight is half of what the night will ask for. Set your bird's nest of tinder down out of the wind. Stand your smallest twigs over it loose, like a little lodge, so air can move through. Then strike your 1 match. Feed pencil sticks, then finger sticks, then wrist wood, in that order, a little at a time. The fire is built before the match is ever struck. Do it that way, and 1 match is genuinely all it takes, in weather that sends other folks back to the truck. And once that fire is alive, the old ones had a way to make it outlive the night. Number 8, bank the fire before you sleep. Last chore of the evening. Rake your coals into 1 tight bed in the middle of the fire ring. Then cover that bed with a blanket of the gray ash sitting around your fire ring, 2 to 3 inches deep, 2 to 3 inches and no more, all the way over. It looks like you are burying the fire, and in a way you are. Ash chokes off the open air, so nothing flames and almost nothing burns. But ash also holds warmth in like a quilt, so down inside, the embers stay alive all night, breathing slow. Come morning, take a stick and rake that gray blanket open, and there they are, orange coals winking at you in the cold. Drop a pinch of tinder on, lean in, give it 2 or 3 slow breaths, and your fire is back before the coffee water's out of the jug. No numb fingers fumbling a match at dawn. The old ones banked fires every night of their lives, and a well-banked fire in a good ring will hand you coals a full day later. Which raises a bigger question. When the whole camp moved on, did the fire start over from nothing? It did not. And the answer is one of my favorite skills in this whole list. Number 9, carry your fire with you. Long before matches, our people rarely started fire from scratch because they rarely let fire die. When camp moved, somebody carried the fire. The tool was a fire bundle, and you can make one today. The heart of it is punk wood, which is wood gone soft and crumbly dry with rot, or better yet, a chunk of the hard gray shell fungus that grows on dead trees. Both take a cold and smolder, slow like the world's most patient cigar. Tuck a live ember into a fist of that punk. Wrap the fist in a sleeve of green bark or damp moss, loose enough to let a whisper of air in, tight enough to keep flame out. Carried in the hand or hung from a pack, a good bundle smolders along for hours of walking. At the new camp, open it, tip the glowing heart into a bird's nest of tinder, and blow your fire back to life. In many camps, carrying the fire was the children's job, and a proud one. Think about that. Matches have been around for maybe 150 years. The fire bundle worked for 10,000. The new kid still has some catching up to do. Now, with fire solved, we come to water, and the first water skill answers a question that stumps every modern camper. How do you boil anything with no pot? Number 10, boil water with hot stones. Picture the problem. It is 800 years ago. There is not a piece of metal within 1,000 miles, and the family needs hot soup and safe water. The answer was already lying around the fire. Stones. Here's the old method. Start to finish. Take a wooden bowl, a tightly woven basket, or a hole in the ground lined with a piece of hide and fill it with water. Set fist-sized stones in the fire. Dry stones from high ground, just like we said at number 5. Let them heat until they glow faint in the shade. Now cut 2 green sticks and use them like long tongs. Lift 1 stone. Lower it into the water easy. Never drop it, because it will spit boiling splash at you. That 1 stone comes alive, hissing and rolling. 3 or 4 stones will take a gallon of cold water to a full rolling boil in only a few minutes, faster than your kitchen stove. Swap cooled stones out and hot ones in to hold the boil. And when the water boils, let it roll 1 full minute. 1 full minute, counted slow, and the water is safe to drink. That is how our people made soups and stews for thousands of years in containers that themselves could never touch flame. But what about when the only water you can find looks like coffee with milk? The old ones had an answer dug right into the ground. Number 11, dig a seep well. Say the only water in reach is a muddy stock pond or a slow, silty creek. Do not dip your cup in that. Walk a few feet back from the edge and dig a hole instead, arm deep, about as wide as a bucket. Then sit down and let the ground work. Water will begin seeping in through the walls, and every inch of soil it crosses is a filter, straining out mud, leaves, and a good share of what you do not want. The first water that gathers comes in cloudy. Bail it out with your cup and let it refill. Bail it twice, maybe 3 times. Then let the well sit still and the water settles clear as glass. Now, I will be straight with you, the way I would want somebody to be straight with me. The old ones drank from waters all over this country that you and I cannot trust anymore. The land has changed hands and changed condition. So the seep does the cleaning and the boil does the finishing. Every time. Ground filter first, rolling boil second, 1 full minute, and you can make drinkable water out of some sorry-looking sources. That covers dirty water. But there are days in dry country when there is no water in sight at all. On those days, the old ones went looking for a certain vine. Number 12, draw water from the wild grapevine. Back in these hills, the woods are laced with wild grapevines thick as your wrist, climbing 60 feet into the oaks. Inside every one of them, a slow river of clean water is moving up from the roots. In spring especially, that vine is a drinking fountain. But identification comes first, and I want you to hear this part twice. Wild grape has shaggy, papery bark that peels off in loose strips, and its tendrils fork like a snake's tongue. There's a poison look-alike called moonseed, and moonseed's bark is smooth with no shaggy strips and no forked tendrils. So the rule is short. If the bark does not shred, you do not touch it. If the bark does not shred, walk away. Found the true grape, wrist thick and shaggy. Cut the vine clean through, low down, and hold your cup under the cut. Then reach up as high as you can and cut a deep notch into the same vine. That top cut lets air in and the water lets go, dripping and then running from the bottom cut, clear and cool and ready to drink. In good spring flow, you can fill a cup while you catch your breath. Take one vine out of a big tangle and leave the rest, so the patch outlives us both. And one bonus for open country. At first light, tie a bandana or clean shirt around each shin and walk through tall, dewy grass. Wring them out into your cup every few minutes. It is slow water, but it is water, and it has kept people alive. Now we have camp, fire, and water. It is time to talk about shelter and about the number that changed how I think about staying warm. Number 13, build shelter around the 100-watt rule. Here's the number. A resting human body gives off about as much heat as a 100-watt light bulb. That is your stove, all night, every night, whether you use it or waste it. A big tent, a drafty lean-to, an open cave, they all lose your 100 watts faster than you make it. The old solution is the debris shelter, and the whole forest floor is the building material. Lean a strong ridge pole into the fork of a tree about hip high. Rib it down both sides with sticks, like the frame of an overturned boat. Keep the inside small, just barely bigger than your own body. Small is the secret, because your bulb can only heat so many square feet. Now pile on the insulation, dry leaves, pine needles, ferns, grass, heaped over the whole frame 2 feet thick. 2 feet, and when you think you have 2 feet, add more, because the pile always settles. Stuff the inside with a thick dry leaf bed, crawl in feet first, and pull a plug of leaves in behind you to close the door. All those leaves trap dead air, and trapped, still air is one of the finest insulators on this earth. It is the same trick a wren uses, and the wren sleeps outside every night of an Oklahoma winter and does just fine on a body smaller than your thumb. That is the shelter you build when you have nothing. But I want to tell you about the shelter our people built when they had it figured out completely. I have slept in it at 20 below zero, and I was warm. Number 14, learn what the teepee got right. In my 30s and 40s, I spent winters out on the northern plains with our people up there on the powwow trail and at the winter gatherings. And more than one January night, I slept in a teepee with the wind screaming across the flats and the thermometer sitting at 20 below. Inside, next to a small open fire, I was comfortable in my shirt sleeves, and toughness had nothing to do with it. The teepee is engineering. Start with the shape. A cone has no flat wall for the wind to slam, so a gale just parts around it, and the harder it blows, the tighter the cover hugs the poles. Inside, our people out on the plains hung a second wall, a liner from about shoulder height down to the ground. Cold air slips in under the outer cover, rises in the gap between cover and liner, and flows up and out the smoke flaps at the peak. And it carries the fire's smoke along with it like a chimney you can adjust by hand. The people sit inside the liner, out of that moving air, in the still warm middle. Wind shifts. You swing the smoke flaps with 2 outside poles, the way you would turn a damper. A wood stove made of poles and hide, engineered on this continent 1,000 years before anybody here saw an iron one, and no store-bought tent has caught up to it yet. Now notice something. Even in that teepee, nobody slept flat on the bare January ground. What they put underneath a sleeper is our next skill, and it is half of the answer to the big promise I made you at the start. The other half is still coming at number 25. Number 15, lay a bough bed. Cold does not just sit in the air around you. It waits in the ground under you, and we will get to the full truth of that soon. The first defense is simple. Get up off the dirt on a mattress of trapped air. Evergreen boughs are the classic. Breaker cut springy boughs about as long as your forearm. Start at the foot of your bed space and stick the butt ends into the ground at a slant, working row after row toward the head, each row shingled over the last like feathers on a bird. Keep laying until the bed stands a foot deep, because once you lie on it, it presses down to about 4 inches. 4 inches is the number you are after under your body. Top it with dry leaves or grass for softness, and you are floating on thousands of little springs and pockets of still air up out of the frost, smelling cedar all night. No evergreens around? A foot-thick pile of dry leaves stuffed under you does the same work. And take the boughs a few from each tree, never stripping one bare so the tree shrugs it off and goes on living. Now, a bough bed will carry you through a fall night in fine shape, but in the dead of winter, the old ones did one more thing. Underneath everything I just described, down in the ground itself. Hold on to that thought. We are getting closer to it. Before we get there, winter has one more rule, and breaking it has killed more strong men than the cold ever did alone. Number 16. Never sweat in winter. It sounds backwards, so let me say it plain. In deep cold, sweat is rain falling inside your own clothes. Wet clothing loses its power to insulate, and as that sweat dries, it pulls heat out of your body the whole time. The same way a wet shirt chills you on a summer porch. A man who hikes hard, chops hard, and soaks his shirt at noon starts freezing at 3, right when the sun starts dropping. So the old travelers on winter trails moved slow on purpose, and it kept them alive to be old travelers. Do it their way, one habit at a time. Start out a little cold at the trailhead because 10 minutes of walking will warm you. The moment you feel heat building, open your collar and vent. Before heavy work, chopping, dragging, digging, take a layer off first and put it back on the moment the work stops, before the chill lands. Keep a pace you could hold all day while talking. There's a saying among the northern peoples that in winter you sweat, you die, and they did not say it to be colorful. Stay dry from the inside and cold weather turns from an enemy into scenery. All right, camp, fire, water, shelter. Now we come to my favorite part of any trip, food, and it starts with a rule about where food lives in camp. Number 17, keep 2 camps. In the old camps, the cooking and the meat racks stood apart from where the people slept, and that habit will save your bacon in bear country today, sometimes in the plainest sense. The rule is the same 100 steps from skill number 2. Your kitchen, your food storage, and your dishwater all live about 100 long steps downwind from your bed. 100 steps. Cook there, eat there, wash there, strain your dishwater there. Hang the food high off a limb between 2 trees, or seal it hard in the truck or a proper canister, but never, ever in the shelter with you. Do not keep so much as a candy bar or a mint in your sleeping clothes, and do not sleep in the shirt you fried fish in, because smell rides cloth all night. A bear reads the night air the way you read a headline, and raccoons and mice read the fine print. Give the food its own address away from yours, and the readers visit the pantry, not the bedroom. That is where food sleeps. Now for the better question. Out there in the woods, where does food come from? And the first answer is a plant most folks drive past every day without a glance. Number 18. Know the cattail, the supermarket of the swamp? That plant standing in every roadside ditch and pond edge with the brown corn dog head on top is close to a full pantry on a stalk, and our people used every inch of it in every season. In spring, grab a young shoot low and pull, and it slides up white and crisp, peels like a leek, and eats like a mild cucumber. In early summer, the green flower spike, before it browns, boils up in a few minutes, and you eat it like corn on the cob, and it even tastes like a cousin of corn. Midsummer, bend the golden tops into a bag and shake, and you collect pollen as fine as flour, bright yellow, good protein. In fall and winter, the roots underwater are packed with starch and roasted in coals. They fed whole camps through the lean months. The dry fluff from the brown heads catches a spark for fire starting, and stuffed moccasins and bedding as insulation. One caution, said twice, because it matters. Young cattail shoots share the water's edge with iris, and iris will make you sick. Iris comes up as a flat fan, like a hand of playing cards. Cattail comes up round a rolled spear. Flat fan, leave it alone. Round spear, that is your cattail. And take a little from a big stand, never much from a small one, so the marsh is richer when your grandchildren find it. Speaking of things handed down to grandchildren, the next one comes straight out of my own October, in these hills, with Ada. Number 19, gather hickory nuts and make canucci. Every October of my boyhood, my grandmother Ada would hand me a feed sack and point me up the ridge behind the house into the hickories. We would gather until the sack dragged, and I still do it every fall on the same ground. Now, anybody who has fought a hickory shell with a hammer knows the meat comes out in stubborn little flakes, so the old Cherokee way quit fighting the shell. The nuts were pounded, shells and all, in a big log mortar, down into a coarse meal. That meal went into boiling water, and then the whole business was strained through a sieve or a cloth. The shells stay behind. What passes through is canucci, which means hickory nut soup, and it pours rich as cream, tasting deep and sweet and a little smoky. Poured over hominy or rice, the way it is served at our tables to this day, it is winter fat and comfort in a bowl, from a tree the squirrels planted for free. 10,000 years of testing. That is the guarantee on this one. And while we are cooking, let me show you how the old ones made bread out here with no pan, no oven, and no skillet. Number 20, cook ash cakes on a hot stone. This is the simplest bread in America, and it fed hunters and travelers on this continent for centuries. The mix is 1 cup of cornmeal, half a cup of water, and a good pinch of salt. 1 cup of meal, half a cup of water. Work it in your hands into a stiff dough and pat out little cakes about as thick as your finger. If you shook pollen from the cattails, swap in a handful for part of the meal, and the cakes come out richer and golden. Now for the griddle. Find a flat, dry stone, dry ground stone, same rule as always, and prop it beside the fire or right over a bed of coals until a drop of water dances on it. Lay the cakes on. When the edges stiffen and the bottom is brown, turn them once. No stone handy, rake open a bed of clean hardwood coals, lay the cakes right on them and flip once. They come off wearing a little ash, and you brush it away with 2 swats. And I will tell you something. A hot ash cake with a smear of honey, eaten by a creek, beats anything a drive-through window ever handed me. Bread solved. But suppose you want to come back from a day of fishing to a full supper, already cooked, with nobody standing over a fire all afternoon. The old ones had that solved too, buried right under the campsite. Number 21, dig an earth oven. This is the original slow cooker, and the Crock-Pot Company owes somebody's great-grandmother royalties. Dig a pit about 2 feet across and 2 feet deep. Line the bottom and sides with dry stones, and you already know which stones. Build a hardwood fire down in that pit and feed it a full 2 hours until the stones underneath are ringing hot. 2 hours, no shortcuts, because those stones are your battery. Rake out the flaming wood and the biggest coals. Lay a thick mat of green grass or damp leaves right on the hot stones. Set in your food, wrapped in big green leaves or clean cloth, a whole fish, a chicken, roots, squash, whatever the day gave you. Cover with another thick green mat, then shovel all the dirt back on top and mound it so no smoke leaks anywhere. Then walk away. Go fish. Set camp. Take a nap in that bough bed. The buried stones give their heat back slow, and the green layers steam everything moist and tender for hours. Come back at supper time, dig down careful, and lift out a meal that falls off the bone, cooked to perfection with nobody watching it. Our people cooked for whole gatherings this way, pits the size of wagon beds. Yours only has to feed the ones you love. Now, a good supper is one thing, but the old ones also had to make meat last weeks on the trail with no ice chest in 1,000 miles. That skill is next, and stay close now, because right after these last few, we hit the ground secret I promised you at the very start. Number 22, dried jerky and pound pemmican. Meat keeps when it is dry, because the spoilage needs moisture to live. So the old ones took the water out. Slice your meat with the grain, 1/4 inch thin. 1/4 inch, thin enough that light glows through it when you hold it up. And that number is the whole trick, because thick strips sour before they dry. Drape the strips over a rack of green sticks, waist high. Underneath, keep a small, low fire, more smoke than flame, far enough down that the strips feel warm air, never cooking heat. Sun and moving air do the drying. The smoke keeps the flies honest and lays on flavor and keeping power. Depending on the weather, in a day or two, the strips crack when you bend them instead of folding. And cracking, not bending, is done. That is jerky, and it keeps for months. Then the Plains people took it one step further into genius. They pounded that dried meat down to almost a powder, mixed it about half and half with warm rendered fat, and stirred in dried berries. Packed into hide containers, that is pemmican, and it kept not for months but for years. Meat, fat, and fruit in one dense bite that fed families across this continent, and later fed the whole fur trade, which ran on it for 200 years. The original trail food, and still the best. Now, 3 skills left. The last one is the promise from the beginning of this video, so stay right here with me. Before the ground gives up its secret, I want to hand you the 2 plants, starting with the most famous remedy our people ever gave the world. Number 23. Respect the willow, the grandfather of aspirin. Walk any creek in this country, and you will find willows leaning over the water, long narrow leaves, limber branches like whips. The old ones knew that tree as the headache tree. The medicine is in the inner bark, the thin, soft, greenish white layer between the rough outside and the hard wood. In the old camps, a palmful of that inner bark went into a cup of water kept hot by the fire, steeped about 10 minutes. 10 minutes, and the tea comes out bitter as a bad memory. And folks sipped it at the end of a long trail day for a pounding head or aching knees. Everyday aches, everyday comfort, all across this continent for thousands of years. Then, about 150 years ago, chemists took a hard look at willow bark, found the substance inside doing the work, tamed it in a laboratory, and gave their version a brand new name: aspirin. The little white pill in every American medicine cabinet is the great-grandchild of a tree our people were steeping before the pyramids went up. The old remedy was so right that the modern world built a whole industry on top of it. Now, I say this once in every one of these talks, the way an elder said it to me. If you're on medications, have a word with your doctor before you add anything new. Willow included. The knowledge is old, but so is common sense. That is the ache plant. The last plant is for the outside of you, and you have been stepping over it your whole life. Number 24. Keep plantain, the trail bandage, in your eye. I do not mean the banana-looking thing at the grocery store. I mean the little green rosette growing this minute in your yard, your driveway crack, and along every trail in America. Low egg-shaped leaves, and the way you know it for certain is the ribs. Strong cords running the length of the leaf, end to end, and when you tear the leaf slowly across, those ribs pull out as tiny threads, like strings from a bean, ribs and strings. That is your plantain. Out on the trail, it is the bandage that grows everywhere. Mosquito bite, bee sting, nettle burn, a scraped shin, chigger bites around your boot tops. Pick a clean leaf, chew it a few seconds, or mash it between 2 clean stones into a green paste and press it on the spot. Hold it there, and that old green coolness settles the sting and the itch while you finish your day. The old people watched this plant spring up along the new wagon roads 2 centuries ago, studied it, learned its gifts, and put it straight to work, because good knowledge was always welcome in the camp, no matter which direction it walked in from. Simple, free, and growing at your feet. And now, my friends, we are here. Number 25. The promise from the top of this video. Why you were cold in that expensive sleeping bag, and what the old ones did to the ground itself so that it never happened to them. Number 25. Heat the ground before you sleep on it. Go back to that 2 in the morning camper from the start, awake and shivering in $400 of gear. All night he blamed the air and piled things on top of himself. The whole time, the thief was underneath him. Listen to the why, because this is the part nobody explains. Still air is a poor thief of heat. That is exactly why feathers, wool, and leaf piles keep you warm. They trap still air. But the earth is a patient, bottomless thief. Press your warm body flat against cold ground, and the ground drinks your heat many times faster than the night air ever could, hour after hour. And it never fills up because there is a whole cold planet under your shoulder blades. Worse, your body weight crushes the bag's fluff flat beneath you, so under your back, the expensive insulation barely exists. That is the mystery of the cold camper solved. He was never losing the fight to the air. He was losing it to the dirt. So the old ones quit fighting the air and went to work on the ground. Here is the method, plain and slow. In the evening, scrape out a shallow trench the size of your bed, about a hand deep. Choose sandy or plain dirt ground, never deep black forest duff or peaty soil, because ground like that can hold hidden fire and smolder. Burn a hardwood fire down the length of that trench for about an hour until it falls to a bed of coals. Spread those coals even, end to end. Now bury them under 4 inches of packed dirt. 4 inches firmed down with the flat of your foot, every ember covered deep with nothing showing. Then test it the old way. Hold your bare palm flat on the dirt and count to 10. Slow. Warm like fresh bread is right. Too hot to hold? Add 2 more inches of dirt and wait. Lay your bough bed on top, then your blankets, and lie down on ground that has become a warm hearthstone, giving its stored heat up into your bed, slow and steady until morning. Our people warmed beds this way on the winter plains under buffalo robes and in the north woods under 6 feet of snow, and I have done it in these Oklahoma hills in January and slept like a well-fed hound. Instead of trying to heat the great outdoors, they heated the mattress and let the night take care of itself. 10,000 years of testing. That is the guarantee on this one. And that right there is the kind of knowledge my grandmother's generation handed down for free, fire to fire, and it is why I wrote the book. The Native American Way hold 101 of these, written out plain so they do not die with me. This warm ground bed has its own page in the book. $17, marked down from $47, for the one piece of camping gear that never wears out and works better the more you use it. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you're watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So there it is, 25 skills, from where you set your camp to the warm ground you sleep on, the way the old ones did it on this land for 10,000 years. Now tell me in the comments where your people are from. And if there is native blood in your family line like there is in so many American families, I would be honored to hear the story. I read every single one. And come back next time, because I am going to show you the winter tree foods our people harvested in the dead of January, when the gardens were gone and the snow was deep, including one sweet one standing in your county right now that almost nobody living knows how to use. Wado, my friends. That means thank you. Walk easy, and I'll see you down the trail.